He swore he loved me every single day. Not casually, not out of habit. He said it the way people say things they want you to believe forever. Looking straight into my eyes. Holding my hands just a little longer than necessary. Like he was afraid I might disappear if he let go. After years of broken relationships, betrayal, and disappointment, he felt like safety. Like stability. Like something real in a world that had taught me to expect disappointment. We moved in together faster than we should have. 8 months later, everyone around us thought we were perfect. Neighbors smiled when they saw us. Friends said we were solid. Even my family relaxed around him. But perfection is quiet. And silence hides things. The night everything changed, he said he needed space. Just a few hours to clear his head. No argument. No raised voices. Just a calm kiss on my forehead and the words, "I'll be back soon." He never came back. The next morning, the police knocked on my door. At first it felt routine. They asked when I had last seen him. If we argued. If he had enemies. I answered calmly, honestly, still convinced this was just a misunderstanding. Before leaving, one officer paused. He looked at me differently. Not with sympathy. With suspicion. 2 days later, they asked me to come in for a formal statement. The interrogation room was cold. Small. A camera blinking silently in the corner. The detective placed a thick folder on the table's side and said something that made my stomach drop. "Your name is the one that appears in the investigation." I laughed. Nervously. I told him it had to be a mistake. He opened the folder. Printed messages sent from my phone. Location data placing me near the crime scene. A witness claiming they saw us arguing days before his disappearance. Everything lined up. Too perfectly. That was the moment I realized something terrifying. Someone hadn't just disappeared. Someone had written a story. And I was cast as the villain. At first, the police believed he was dead. A burned vehicle. Human remains too damaged for immediate identification. A timeline that placed me as the last person with him. Motive carefully suggested. Opportunity clearly outlined. But then inconsistencies began to surface. Bank records. Surveillance gaps. A phone signal that moved when it shouldn't have. Slowly, painfully, the truth emerged. He hadn't planned to escape. He had planned to die without dying. The plan required 3 things. A body, a fire, and someone to blame. And I wasn't chosen randomly. That's when they discovered her. The woman he was seeing behind my back. His lover. But not the kind you imagine. She wasn't emotional. She wasn't jealous. She wasn't desperate. She was calm. Calculated. Patient. She never demanded anything. She whispered ideas instead. What if you vanished? What if someone else paid the price? She trusts you, doesn't she? She studied me from a distance. My routine. My fears. My blind loyalty. She helped him clone his phone, schedule messages, fake public arguments days before the disappearance. While he hesitated, she organized. While he doubted, she refined. People later said he loved me. That was a lie. Love doesn't turn someone into a scapegoat. Love doesn't prepare a prison cell with your name on it. When questioned, she smiled politely and said, "I only gave advice." But she knew too much. Too many details. Too much control. She wasn't an accomplice. He was the architect. The psychological evaluation didn't arrive with drama. No shocking revelations. No sudden twist. It arrived quietly, like everything about her. The psychiatrist described her as emotionally intact, intellectually sharp, and disturbingly coherent. There were no signs of trauma, no emotional instability, no internal chaos. She wasn't broken. She wasn't impulsive. She was organized. The report stated that she did not experience empathy in the way most people do. She understood emotions intellectually, not emotionally. She knew what sadness looked like. She knew how guilt was supposed to sound. But she did not feel them. Instead, she experienced something else. Control. She didn't crave love. He studied it. She didn't feel attachment. She simulated it. She didn't fear consequences. He calculated them. Investigators began re-examining her past, not because they expected to find violence, but because they needed to understand pattern. And that's when the similarities became impossible to ignore. Different cities, different men, different women who suddenly found themselves isolated, questioned, blamed. Always the same structure. A man emotionally dependent. A woman emotionally exposed. A narrative slowly constructed behind the scenes. She never rushed. She never forced outcomes. She nudged people, adjusted conversations, reframed reality until others made decisions that benefited her. To her, people were not individuals. They were systems. She tested how much pressure a person could handle before breaking. How much guilt could be implanted before self-doubt took over. How long someone could live inside a lie before accepting it as truth. And I had survived something that was never designed for survival. That wasn't part of her plan. The courtroom was full, but it felt empty. She sat there calmly, hands folded, posture relaxed. She didn't look like a criminal. She looked like someone attending a lecture. Observing, analyzing. When witnesses spoke, she listened carefully. When evidence was presented, she nodded slightly as if confirming details she already knew. She didn't object emotionally. She corrected facts mentally. When it was my turn to testify, my voice shook. Not because I was afraid of the court, but because I was aware of her presence. She never looked at me. That hurt more than if she had. I realized then that fear to her was not something she caused accidentally. It was something she cultivated. And watching me struggle was enough. The prosecution described her as manipulative, calculated, dangerous. The defense tried to frame her as influential but not responsible. She didn't react to either. When the verdict was read, there was no visible response. No tears. No anger. No denial. Just a slow blink as if she were mentally closing a file. As guards approached, she finally turned her head. She looked at me, and she smiled. Not a smile of victory. Not a smile of regret. A smile of recognition. As if to say, you understand now. People think prison ends stories like this. It doesn't. It just removes the monster from sight, not from memory. After the trial I moved. Then moved again. Changed numbers. Changed routines. Deleted old photos. Avoided familiar places. I tried to erase every version of myself that existed before her plan. But trauma doesn't disappear when the danger is locked away. It adapts. I stopped trusting coincidences. I memorized exits. I listened for footsteps behind me. Then the messages began. Not threats. Not warnings. Observations. You don't take the same route anymore. You changed your hair. That was smart. No signature. No proof. Just enough specificity to destroy sleep. The prison denied she had contact with the outside world. Officially she didn't. But people like her never work alone. They teach. They influence. They plant ideas and let others act. That's when I realized the final truth. She never wanted me dead. Dead people don't suffer. She wanted me alert. Watching. She wanted my life shaped by anticipation. And in that way she succeeded. I don't live in peace. I live prepared. Prepared for the possibility that she gets out. Prepared for the possibility that she doesn't need to. Prepared for the reality that some people don't need to finish what they start. They just need to know it's still affecting you. Because the most terrifying thing about a psychopath isn't what they do. It's how patiently they wait. Prison didn't silence her. It only changed the distance. For a while after the trial, nothing happened. No letters. No messages. No unexplained events. Silence settled in. Heavy, uncomfortable, unnatural. People around me said that was a good sign. That it meant the nightmare was finally over. They didn't understand something crucial. People like her don't disappear. They pause. I tried to rebuild what I could. A new apartment. A job where no one knew my past. New routines designed carefully, deliberately, like defensive structures rather than habits. I told myself this was what survival looked like now. But peace never arrived. It started subtly. Small inconsistencies. A sense of being observed without evidence to support it. The feeling that conversations repeated themselves in strange ways, as if echoes were moving ahead of me rather than behind. A stranger on the subway once looked at me too long. Not threatening. Curious. Studying. When our eyes met, he smiled politely and looked away. That night I didn't sleep. Weeks later, a coworker mentioned something that froze me in place. You remind me of a story I heard once, she said casually. About a woman who survived something horrible. I asked her where she had heard it. He shrugged. Online. Somewhere. I never found the post. But I found the comments. The details were too precise to be coincidence. Places I had lived. Decisions I had made after the trial. Changes no public record could explain. Someone was updating the narrative in real time. That's when I understood the next layer of her design. She wasn't reaching out directly. He was broadcasting. Psychopaths like her don't operate alone. They never need to. They attract people who admire intelligence, confidence, detachment. People who mistake emotional absence for strength. Through prison interviews, letters, and monitored conversations, she had built something invisible but effective. A network of listeners. Not accomplices. Not criminals. Witnesses. People who watched. Who reported. Who fed her information without realizing they were doing it. A comment here. A casual observation there. Nothing illegal. Nothing traceable. Perfect. Investigators later admitted this was the part they underestimated. They expected violence. They expected coordination. They didn't expect influence. And influence is far harder to restrain. She never told anyone what to do. He didn't need to. She only needed to say things like, "Some stories deserve to be remembered. Survivors change when they feel watched. Fear reveals truth faster than force. People interpreted, acted, and I felt it. Everywhere." The second message arrived 1 year after her sentencing. This time it wasn't anonymous. It came from a public account. A post buried deep in a thread about criminal psychology. Just one sentence. Survival doesn't mean escape. It means adaptation. No name. No direct reference. But I knew. Because those were her words. She had said them once during a psychiatric evaluation, when she believed the room was empty. I realized then that she wasn't angry with me for surviving. He was fascinated. I had become something unexpected. A variable she hadn't controlled. And psychopaths hate unfinished variables. Fear doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers so quietly you mistake it for intuition. Years passed. Outwardly, my life stabilized. I learned how to smile again. How to hold conversations without scanning faces for threat. How to exist in public spaces without panicking. But inside, everything was calibrated. I memorized patterns. I noticed changes. I tracked inconsistencies. Because fear had become a survival language. Therapists called it hypervigilance. Friends called it paranoia. But they hadn't lived inside a story designed by someone who viewed people as experiments. I had. One night, while cleaning old files from a cloud account I barely remembered creating, I found something that made my hands shake. A document. It wasn't written by me. It was a timeline. My timeline. Dates. Movements. Emotional states inferred from online activity. Notes like, isolation increasing. Trust rebuilding slowly. Fear response stabilized. It ended with a sentence that destroyed any remaining illusion of safety. Subject continues to adapt. Observation ongoing. The account that created the document no longer existed. But the style was unmistakable. I used to believe the worst part of my story was nearly being blamed for a crime I didn't commit. I was wrong. The worst part was realizing that for someone like her, destruction doesn't require proximity. It doesn't require touch. It doesn't even require freedom. It only requires attention. She didn't need to come for me. She had already altered the way I lived. And in her logic that meant success. Today I still don't live in peace. I live with awareness. I know that one day her name may appear in the news again. Or it may not. She may leave prison. Or she may influence someone else to act in her place. I don't know. And that uncertainty is exactly what she wanted. Because the final lesson she taught me without ever speaking to me again was this. Some people don't need to finish what they start. They only need to know. You're still living inside it.